Hey, what's up everybody, this is Muth24, and today we're going to be taking a trip back through the Universal Century to see the Gundam that started it all, the granddaddy himself, the Master Grade RX-78-2 version 2.0. I'm afraid I don't have a green or a blue lightning base yet, so Char's red color is going to have to suffice there. But looking at the front of the box, you can see that the RX-78 is got a slashing pose there with the shield kind of upside down, which is kind of odd. But at any rate, you got the gun tank and the gun cannon in the background, which is pretty cool. Looking at the side of the box, we have similar pose with them slashing with the beam saber. Got the rifle showing all the points of articulation that are new and updated compared to the older kits. Got a shot of him with the kit assembled, all the weapons and stuff, and then the runners next to it. On this side, you have a front shot and a back shot. You've got the core fighter front and back, and then you have two more action poses, that being the famous one from the end of the series, transformation of the core fighter into the core block, and then how you attach it to the torso. And then, obviously on the top of the box there, same as usual, you've got the shot of the Gundam as it is on the front. On the back here, you have a history of a bunch of different kits of the original Gundam and its different versions. So you've got like the G3 on there. You have the very original Gundam kit right there from 1980, and then you've got like the Perfect Gundam and so on and so forth. But it just goes to show you like how many different versions of this Gundam they've made over the years, and I mean it makes a ton of sense because this is the one that started it all. Taking a look at the colors that you're going to get, this is how it is straight out of the box. And the reason that I went with the 2.0 over the 1 Year War version is just, with all of my lead Gundams, I want them to appear as they are in the anime for the most part. So with this guy, you're going to get a lighter blue than normal, and I'll show that compared to some of the other kits in a second. But you're going to have the standard white for most of the body, you're going to have red, and then the yellow, and then you're going to have gray for the interior. So basically you're just getting the basic colors for this, but you know what, I think that works really well. It's classic Gundam, and that's just the way he should look, I think. Taking a look at the front of the instruction manual, you have the same pictures you do on the front of the box, and I've mentioned before with some of the newer Master Grades, I really like the way that these new instruction manuals look as opposed to just the gray image with the head of the Gundam on it. Looking inside of it, you have info on the mobile suit, the weapons, list of all the runners. Then you're going to start off building with the core fighter, and then you're going to build everything else around that. So you're going to go for the body unit next, and then you go for the head and the arms and so on and so forth. And then in the inside here you have the traditional fights on section, and in this case you have white base up there, and then Amuro fighting Rambaral, and then you've got paint apps for the pilot figures. You do get two of them with this kit. Panel lining just to show how that's going to bring out the finer details of the kit. And then a list of the different Master Grade versions of the original Gundam here. So you have the very original one, the 1.5, the Verka, the Perfect Gundam, and then the 1 Year War version prior to this 2.0 version. And as we go on through the rest of the kit, you're going to keep building it. And then at the end, you are going to get a list of where all the stickers and decals will be applied to this kit. And then, of course, on the back, traditional front shot of the mobile suit. For some size comparisons, first up I have the RX-79 ground-type Gundam, which is the first Master Grade I ever built. And basically it's a scaled down in terms of how its durability as compared to the RX-78, but it's basically a mass-produced version of it for the ground combat during the last few days of the 1 Year War. And as you can see, the blue on the RX-79 is considerably darker than that on the RX-78. Also, there's more of a off-white color to this plastic, and it probably looks a little bit darker than it really is just because I painted this one with the weathering look to it. But you also get the sense that this one's a little bit more mechanical, a little bit more detailed in terms of where the weapons are, and even the head sculpt is a little bit different. And that's partly to do with the animation style for 8th MS Team compared to the original Mobile Suit Gundam, where the original Mobile Suit Gundam was a little bit more cartoony, just because it's older. Next up, we have Amuro's final suit from the Universal Century, at least from the anime, the new Gundam. And he's actually too big that he's not in the frame at the moment, so let me back this up. And again, some differences in the color there. The new Gundam's more of a really dark navy color, almost black, with the white, which is a distinctly different look than the RX-78, and as luck would have it, this one is also painted to look like it's weathered. But you do get a sense of just how much a size difference there is between the original Mobile Suit Gundam and the early Universal Century stuff, and then stuff from the late Universal Century. And just for kicks, for something really small to compare it to make the RX-78 look like he's, you know, at least something of a relatively large size mobile suit, I have the Crossbone Gundam. Swap the new Gundam out for a second here. And the Crossbone Gundam, for maybe those not familiar with the manga, takes place after F91, before Victory Gundam, very late in the Universal Century, and it's at a time when they've started scaling down the mobile suits to be considerably smaller. So you can see there that the RX-78 has at least a head, maybe two, on the Crossbone Gundam. Now, as I mentioned before, you do get two pilot figures with this, as well as the one that's in the cockpit of the core fighter. And this one is Amuro in his street clothes, and he's got his books under his arms there. And then you do get the more classic Amuro in his spacesuit there, so if you want to have him fighting Char from the end of the series, there you go. You also have a connector piece for the mobile suit to put him on an action base. And then you get a few sheets of stickers. You get the traditional foil stickers for the eyes and the camera in the front and the back of the head. You have a sheet of clear stickers with all the warning logos and, you know, put them around the joints and stuff. I chose not to use any of them because I wanted this mobile suit to appear as it does in the anime, but if you like those, you can put them on the kit. And then you also have a sheet of dry transfer decals, and these are a little bit more subtle than on other master grades. They're not going to stand out quite as much as something like you'd put on the shoulders of the Strike with the GATX 105, or even the stuff that goes on the Wing Zero Custom Endless Waltz version. So they're a little bit more subtle. I kind of like them. I just don't plan to use them on mine. But if you're looking for something that's a little less, you know, obvious when you put it on the kit, it's a little bit more subtle for it, might be something you'd be interested in. Now, in terms of articulation, one of the first things I'm going to show off here is the fact that the beam sabers can rock back and forth with the connector and the backpack, which might not seem like a huge deal, but if you're putting the bazooka over his shoulder and you want to get those out of the way, they'll move just enough that you can pose him still without having these go flying off on you. For the head, you are going to get quite a bit of motion up. You can look down quite a bit too, and you might have noticed that the torso actually moved with it, and that's because I don't have the core fighter installed at the moment, but I'll show the difference off in a little bit. The head can rotate 360, and you can get sort of the wiggle around like that. The arms can go up about that far, and the shoulder armor can actually move up as well, so if you wanted to get him doing the final shot pose, it'll definitely accommodate for that. The arms can rotate 360 below the shoulder, can bend 180 at the elbow, and you'll notice there are some pistons inside of there. The inner frame for this is really complex in some parts, like inside the torso and stuff, and not so much in others. Like, I felt like the arms on something like the Strike were a little bit more difficult to put together. So that, I mean, it's a nice thing for this. It's just kind of strange, but I think it's part of the deal is that they wanted to keep it more like the anime appearance. So it's not overly complex, but it's definitely you know, an upgrade from the older versions of this mobile suit. The torso, you can get it to, well, like I said, I don't have the core fighter installed, so it's going to pop out there on me. But you can get him to, you know, wiggle around like that, no problems. You can get the cockpit hatch to open, and it's not going to look real spectacular at the moment because there's no core fighter in there. But you can get that to slide up, and then if you want to pull it back down, I'd suggest you use something like the beam sabers or something, but I'll put that back down in a second. The skirts can go up here, and you actually have like a double hinge there. The side skirts, get the arm out of the way, can also move up and out of the way. and the back skirts can move up on that double hinge. And it's kind of nice because if you can get this all lined up nicely, and sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate quite right, but you can get it to keep that, you know, sort of flush look for the skirts that he has in the anime. Otherwise, if you want him to do more posing, you can, you know, move those around and separate them. As far as the legs go, whoop, well, the skirt armor just flung off on me there, but I'll put that back on in a second. Assuming the skirt armor was still here, you could get him to go out about a 90-degree angle. You could get his leg to go forward about that far, and actually a little bit further if you want to, because the skirt armor will allow for that. You can also get it to go back not quite as far, because the way that the hinge attaches to the body there with that little socket, it's not centered on the leg, and that's going to make it a little bit difficult to go back further, but you can still go back, you know, a fair amount there. As far as the bend is concerned, you're going to get basically a 180 there, and again, you've got some of those nice looking pistons inside of the legs, and the knee piece, I really like this, how it sort of continues up and doesn't expose a ton of gray. You've got that white look to it. And then also on the feet, you can get the ankles to rock around and go back and forth. Though this piece isn't actually connected to anything, the back of the foot here, so it's just going to kind of pop out every once in a while. But the ankle guard can move up and down. And then the foot itself, you have these two pistons in here on the front and the back, and those will wiggle side to side, move it front and back. And then you've got this toe bend, so you can actually get him to take off some sort of a dashing pose or a semi-kneeling pose without having to worry about him toppling over, because this will actually help him keep his weight pretty good, although it is going to help if you have the core fighter in there at the same time. For the hands, you're going to get some rotation here and wiggle at the wrist, and this gray piece between the arm and the hand itself is going to move to accommodate for that. You get a hinge at the palm and the wrist, which allows them to go back and forth like that. You're going to have the traditional ball joint thumb, so that'll just wiggle around. And then for the fingers, you're going to have something kind of similar to what the Turn A has, where there's individual fingers. And for this trigger finger, you have a hinge at the knuckle, and then a hinge, or the ball joint, sorry, at the actual palm. And then for these ones, it's actually the three fingers attached to each other, but each knuckle is individually posable. And with all that, you can have him pull off the Gundam Right Ace Attorney pose. The vents can also open if you put your finger in there and pop them up. It's not a huge opening there, but it is noticeable, and you can do that for both sides and just flip them back down. Also, something I should make a point of noting on this kit is that there's relatively minimal panel lining required. You just got a few indents along the arms and at the joints there, but by and large you don't have to do a whole lot of panel lining just because of the way that the gray sticks out from the white parts nicely. And one last thing that I actually forgot about this joint here can actually extend from the chest cavity, and then this hinge will allow him to go up, which will help more with the shooting up into the air pose, or if you just want him to expose his robo armpits to you, that works too. So anyways, that pretty much wraps up part 1 of this review. Be sure to check back for part 2 when I'll go over the weapons and accessories and give my final thoughts on this kit. See you then.